everyone, and welcome back to the Sunday Championships here at the Pokemon International Championships. We are here for the side stream for the Victory Road as we get into our Juniors Finals bracket. Let's see how this all came to place.
Yeah, I am super excited for all of these finals today, starting with our juniors division, of course, the youngest of the bunch, and can't wait to see how well they play here today. And we are going to be taking a look at the bracket at Zachary Thomas and Hideo Uezu, who are our finalists. And they have come quite a long way to make it all the way here. And we will be taking a look at their teams in just a little bit. I already saw that we have a little bit of a mirror match going on today.
Yeah, a lot of teams in this finals are going to be showing a little bit of a mirror match, and it's going to be interesting to see how well these juniors players are going to be able to play out this matchup. When you're playing in a mirror match, it's all going to be coming down to some of the subtleties of your team, so I'm curious to see how the juniors will be able to pilot that, and are they experienced enough for their age in order to come out on top?
And they are going to be getting ready here to play this amazing finals, and we are going to get some or a peek at their accomplishments here. We have a Pittsburgh Regionals top 4 and Atlanta Regionals top 4 from Zachary Thomas here, and from Hideo Uezu there is the Anaheim World's top 4, Yokohama Juniors champion, of course, Honolulu World's top 4 or top 8 was the accomplishment there in 2024, and also 2024 the Yokohama Juniors finalist.
Yeah, and despite how young some of these trainers are, they have shown themselves to be playing in such high octane and intense situations. Hideo has been able to be in the finals matches multiple times in their career already as a Japan Championship Series finalist and champion in back-to-back seasons. Let's talk about Zachary's team from the US. We have a Fluttermane, Incineroar, Raging Bolt, Whimsicott, going with a Trick Room option. Definitely a unique pick there. We also have a pretty typical Hearthflame Ogerpon with Woodhammer and Urshifu Rapid Strike carrying that Focus Sash.
Yeah, the Whimsicott sticks out here as it does not only have its typical Tailwind and Encore moves, but also has that Trick Room option and the Dazzling Gleam as its choice of move over something like a Moonblast, which we would usually see. So maybe more to just deal some chip damage to both opposing Pokemon there, and then not really the damage dealer of the team. If we want to talk damage dealers, we'll probably be looking at something like this Ogerpon Hearthflame here and the Urshifu Rapid Strike, as well as also the Raging Bolt, which is actually carrying the Citrus Berry, which, although Citrus Berry itself is a very common item in VGC, you don't usually see it too often on the Raging Bolt, though the color schemes, they do match.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to see a little bit of a matching colors, and typically with the Raging Bolt you like to see that booster energy. Leftovers is typically the better healing item. As we now go into Hideo's team from Japan, we're going to see a Fluttermane with no Protect. It's going to be carrying that Taunt and Thunder Wave status move to try to slow down your opponents. Obviously, because it's not a Prankster Thunder Wave, it can bypass some of these dark types. You have a pretty standard Rillaboom, but it's going to be a Meadow Plate, increasing that grass type damage on your Woodhammer and Grassy Glide while having that U-turn for Pivot. Urshifu Rapid Strike going to be carrying that Mystic Water, also going to be increasing its water type damage. Hearthflame Ogerpon going to be running a little bit of a unstandard attacking move and stopping Tantrum, so trying to give it an additional way to attack into other fire type Pokemon like your opponent's Incineroar. We have a pretty standard Raging Bolt here with Thunderclap, Electro Web, with the Assault Vest, Snarl, and Dragon Pulse, obviously carrying that Terra Fairy. And lastly, the Incineroar is going to be holding that Citrus Berry and has a pretty standard moveset of Knockoff, Flare Blitz, Fake Out, and Parting Shot.
Yeah, we have seen a lot of different Fluttermanes this weekend so far, and I feel like it is one of those Pokemon that has maybe also at this point gotten a bit of that like fifth move syndrome, where there are just so many moves that you want to run on it, and some players now opt to not play Protect on it at all. like we see here on Hideo's team with Taunt, Thunderwave, and the Icy Wind, all really, really good moves to have on Fluttermane. Great speed control, and of course, Taunt also a really, really nice move to prevent something like a Trick Room or really any kind of status moves from the opponent to go up, and that might, come in handy here as well. The Incineroar on Zachary's side also has the option to go for a Roar, which is also a move we haven't seen on Incineroar yet this entire weekend. Really nice against something like a Trick Room or setup Pokemon like opposing Calm Mind Raging Bolts. So some very, very cool techs here we get to see in the Juniors finals.
Yeah, Roar is not a typical move you like to see. We actually get to see another Roar use. Last year we did see Dill Yeomans run the Roar for Graph, and it did somewhat help in that matchup. But we're going to go into game number 1 of the Juniors Division Finals here at the Pokemon European International Championships. Zachary Thomas, we're going to get that POV showing you that Incineroar and Fluttermane, while Hideo is going to be leading double grass with Rillaboom and Ogerpon.
Yes, I am super excited for this. The Ogerpon coming out here right away, threatening some damage together with the Rillaboom, as Zachary going for more of the less offensive lead here, in my opinion, though of course the Fluttermane is on the field, but the Incineroar more of the support here, of course, and might give Zachary an opportunity to go for something like a fake out, though the Rillaboom can do so as well, of course. I am really curious about this turn 1, actually, to see if we'll see some repositioning or just see some damage being dished out, because right now, this Fluttermane could technically just be knocked out here in this turn 1 if both the Ogerpon and the Rillaboom decide to just target into it. But, Hideo also has the opportunity to just reposition a little bit, especially after having gotten that Intimidate up from the opposing Incineroar. You might want to reset that attack stat a bit. But we are going to see a Terastallization onto this Ogerpon right away, so that is going to boost its attack right back up.
Yep, here comes the embodied aspect, giving that +1 attack. Going to also give it an enhanced power for its fire-type attacks in that Ivy Cudgel. Fluttermane not wanting to risk an attack from the double up on the Rillaboom, and the Ogerpon just going to go for that protect. Ivy Cudgel going to be used into the Fluttermane, so that's going to be a null turn. It looks like no one decided to go for Fake Out on this turn. Woodhammer also going to be used to double target into this Fluttermane, so really trying to get rid of that offensive piece on Zachary's side of the field, as Flare Blitz is going to be used into that Rillaboom. It's not going to get that one-hit KO just yet. Going to be taking some self-recoil as the Rillaboom is going to be falling down to red and now just really low yellow HP. So a pretty favorable turn for Zachary, who's able to get really good damage on the board. The Fluttermane still intact, and you have an Incineroar that didn't take too much damage.
Yeah, Zachary calling that really, really nicely there, going for a protect on the Fluttermane, but doesn't really have a lot of options to switch in to an Ivy Cudgel and a Woodhammer, though, you did get a very good amount of damage onto this Rillaboom, but you probably have to now either, target into it again to try and get rid of it, but, be careful that you don't lose the Fluttermane here too early. Rillaboom is going to switch out here, and the Incineroar is going to come in, fire off and Intimidate onto the Incineroar on Zachary's side, and the Fluttermane, which is not really going to care about that too much. A Shadow Ball coming out here now into this Ogerpon. Not going to be enough to knock it out. It's going to do about half damage as the Ivy Cudgel now comes out. This is at neutral attack, since, Intimidate and the embodied aspect, but is going to be enough to take this Fluttermane down.
Yeah, even at neutral, just on how strong this Heartflame Ogerpon is going to be able to take down the Fluttermane, as the Incineroar on Zachary's side is going to drop a parting shot, reducing that attack and special attack onto that Heartflame Ogerpon once more, going to be repivoting into the back. So for Zachary, despite losing that Fluttermane, you got some decent damage on that Shadow Ball, and now you can able to reposition yourself. You're going to bring in this Urshifu with that Focus Sash. Now we have the option. Do you want to go back into that Incineroar, drop another Intimidate down onto both of your opponent's Pokemon, have access to that Fake Out on the turn? Could be very useful. But it looks like we're going to be switching things up, showing the 4th unrevealed Pokemon. It's going to be that Heartflame Ogerpon for Zachary.
Yeah, I feel like an Intimidated right now is always good to get onto the field, and you can always, still switch out your Urshifu or the Ogerpon again and try to get that Intimidate out. But for now, Zachary deciding that he'd prefer to have the Urshifu and the Ogerpon on the field here, and maybe try to just get out some really nice damage. The Ogerpon, or the Urshifu, of course, looking really nice here in being able to go for water-type attacks into either of these fire-type Pokemon, though, of course, the Ogerpon does have access to its grass-type moves as well, so definitely something that Zachary has to keep in mind. Though, you know, the Urshifu, it does have the Focus Sash, so it is safe for at least one attack, if that is, you know, only the Ogerpon targeting it. But Ogerpon actually going to switch out for now, come back later, and we are going to see the Rillaboom come back in here. Grassy Terrain is still up, so not going to be doing too much here. I'm wondering if the Rillaboom will survive this turn or not. If it does, then that means Hideo will have some fake out pressure on the field next turn. Raging Bolt coming in here next to it now, as we see the Terrestrialization on the Ogerpon as well here for Zachary. That is going to be giving it a +1 attack boost, so Zachary really going on the hyper offense here this turn.
Yeah, let's see what happens. We did see that Raging Bolt switch in. And that's going to be the 4th unrevealed Pokemon for Hideo. Zachary deciding to just play it a little bit safe, doesn't want to take anything like a fake out on an Incineroar. Going to go for that attack. Ivy Cudgel on the Ogerpon, going to be targeting into the now switched in Rillaboom. It was already at low HP, but one would have to imagine on how strong Ogerpon is, would have gotten a one-hit KO even at full HP. So that Pokemon is going to be going down. You have 3 Pokemon left for Hideo. Only the Incineroar and the Ogerpon remain. We're going to be seeing the switch in here. It is going to be that shiny Incineroar switching back into the battlefield. Going to be running a fake out into both Pokemon. The Urshifu did just protect this turn, so it's now going to be susceptible to getting its Focus Sash broken. You do have your own Incineroar in the back, but you have to be careful about this Raging Bolt on Hideo's side of the field. It's going to be threatening a lot of damage this turn, I believe.
Yeah, the Raging Bolt is definitely going to become a problem, especially since Zachary has already lost their Flutter Mane. That would have been the best Pokemon to fire off some Fairy-type attacks into that Dragon-type. But now, having lost the Flutter Mane, you have an Incineroar, an Urshifu, and an Ogerpon left, all which don't really hit very well into that Raging Bolt, or, you know, just not so much that you can take it out before it deals some good damage back to you. The Urshifu is going to switch out here. In my opinion, the very correct play here. You don't want to lose the Focus Sash. You don't want to lose too much HP on that Urshifu yet. So the Incineroar is coming back in here now to fire off and intimidate onto the opposing Incineroar, mostly, as the Ivy Cudgel comes out. This is still a very strong move. How much is it going to do into this Raging Bolt? Just a little bit, but I really feel like every bit of damage onto this Raging Bolt is really, really important right now. And look how much that Dragon Pulse just does back towards that Incineroar as the parting shot comes out as well.
Yeah, it looks like the Incineroar on Hideo's side did not opt for the fake out, deciding it wanted to pivot instead. So it's going to go back into its Pokeball, drop the attack and special attack onto the Incineroar on Zachary's side of the field as the Ogerpon comes back in. So now we have 2 matching Heartflame Ogerpons on this field in their beautiful masks. As we do see the Grassy Terrain healing in effect, it looks like we're going to be seeing some of the speed order, but because we don't have the Ogerpon on Zachary's side of the field damage, we won't actually know whose Ogerpon is faster, at least in this turn.
Yeah, not yet, but we might find out either in this game or by next game. You know, if just because we see one Ogerpon go first does not mean that it's faster. It can always still be a speed tie. We can't know for sure unless it happens a few times. I'm guessing these players might know whether or not, you know, their Ogerpon is faster or not, depending on how they are trained. Could very well be a speed tie, though, as we said. The Raging Bolt is going to switch out here now, and is going to bring back in the Incineroar to fire off another Intimidate. So keeping the Raging Bolt safe there, I think also very correct play here, because it looks like it can do really well into Zachary's remaining 3 Pokemon. Fake Out now going to clinch the Ogerpon here as a Wood Hammer comes out into this Incineroar, but that's going to take it very, very nicely.
Yeah, going for the Wood Hammer, trying to get that increased damage with the Grassy Terrain still active on the board state. We did see some of the Grassy Terrain healing in effect. 3 Pokemon apiece for all of these trainers so far. The Urshifu is still going to be hiding in the back with its Focus Sash intact, as the Raging Bolt did retreat into that Incineroar. So now we have a mirror match on the board. We have 2 Incineroars versus 2 Heartflame Ogerpons. Zachary locking in his moves pretty fast, knowing that he knows what he wants to do on this turn. There's not many options left that these trainers can do. It's got to be some way of brute forcing yourself to get these KOs.
Yes, absolutely. And you still have to be very, very careful here on Hideo's side to not lose too many resources, especially, the HP on the Raging Bolt. But so far, you're still in a very decent position. The Incineroar is going to switch out, bring the Raging Bolt back in here, and both of these Ogrepon can still deal a very fair amount of damage, but Zachary actually going to opt for a Spiky Shield this turn, to not take any damage there, but the Stomping Tantrum actually goes into the Incineroar and it's just going to take it out. So that's 2 Pokemon down on Zachary's side, only left with the Urshifu and the Ogrepon. And though the Urshifu here could fire off a Surging Strikes into the Ogrepon, it really, really does not want to see this Raging Bolt standing across from it.
And let's see how this turn plays out. We did pick up the KO onto the Urshifu, on the Incineroar on the last turn. Urshifu, being the last Pokemon in the back, has to switch in now. It does have that Focus Sash, so a Thunderclap, even if it is calced in order to pick up one-hit KOs onto Urshifus, would not be able to get the guaranteed hit right now. Urshifu does have access to that Aqua Jet, so it could decide to go for that priority type attack into the Ogrepon, guaranteeing some hit, but it looks like it's just going to switch into its Pokeball, bringing in the fire type Incineroar. So if there was any water type attacks, whether it's Surging Strikes or Aqua Jet, is going to be doing some decent damage into the now switched in, but more importantly, another Intimidate drop onto both the Ogrepon and the Urshifu. Urshifu going to go for the Aqua Jet. It's going to do pretty pitiful damage. We know that Aqua Jet is not a strong base power move by itself. It's really just used to just pick up low HP Pokemon like that Ogrepon that it was. Ogrepon going to be moving next. Ivy Cudgel going to go into this Raging Bolt once more, but we saw earlier it wasn't doing that much damage, and it's still not going to be, especially with that Intimidate drop, as the Raging Bolt drops both speed on the Urshifu and the Ogrepon. This is getting out of control for Zachary.
Yeah, it is very, very quickly, and I think at this point Zachary already has to think about how to handle this Raging Bolt a little bit better. In Game 2, he lost the Flutter Mane quite early in that Game 1, and we saw how important it was in dealing with that Raging Bolt and also just generally dealing a little bit more damage towards the opposing team. So something he has to keep in mind in Game 2 to not lose that Pokemon too early. Urshifu is going to go for a Detect here as the Fake Out comes out into the Ogrepon. At this point, really, I think you're just stalling for time to maybe, have a few more minutes to think about your strategy in Game 2. Dragon Pulse is going to go into that Urshifu, but Zachary has no way of switching out his Pokemon, and they are at -1 speed, so looking really good here for Hideo.
Yeah, right now Hideo can go for those Thunderclaps to at least lock down the Urshifu in theory. Obviously, that is not a guaranteed way to win this game, but it just makes it so that the Urshifu has to constantly think about getting hit by a Thunderclap. The Ogrepon has been intimidated so many times, it's not really going to be able to do that much damage. You could try to bank on a critical hit. Even though Ivy Cudgel does have that increased chance of getting critical hits, those are still few and far between. So it's going to be such a hard way to come back into this match. It looks like the Ogrepon trying to just redirect any potential Thunderclaps going to be used, but Raging Bolt not going to be taking any of it. It's going to go for that Dragon Pulse into the Ogrepon, not able to get the KO just yet. Urshifu going to be moving next with a close combat, but still not enough to KO the Raging Bolt because of the Intimidate drop a few turns ago, as this Incineroar going to be taking out the Ogrepon with that knockoff. It's going to be a 3-1 Pokemon lead, and this should be wrapping up for game number 1.
Yeah, the Urshifu here can always only attack one target, so all Hideo has to do right now is attack with both of his Pokemon and knock out this very low HP Urshifu in order to move on to Game 2. Aqua Jet is going to come out but barely do any damage into that Raging Bolt, which is going to fire back with a Dragon Pulse and take down this Urshifu. So yeah, as we already said, in Game 2, Zachary really has to keep in mind, how do I handle this Raging Bolt a little bit better? Because once the Flutter Mane was down, he had 3 Pokemon that all couldn't really hit it with any effective moves. So that became very tricky really fast.
Yeah, something I want to point out there in game number 1, that because of the Electrode Web dropped the speed on the Urshifu, we did see some of the speed interactions that the Raging Bolt was actually faster than this Urshifu in comparison. The Raging Bolt was faster than the Urshifu in comparison. That just means that this Urshifu is probably not running a lot of speed investment here. So, in future turns, if you know that you can just keep putting on the pressure on the Urshifu with speed drops, or even just, locking it out with the Thunderclaps later on, that's going to be important to know.
Yes, absolutely. And again, just makes things even trickier for Zachary in having to deal with that Electro Web as well. So I'm guessing we might see some adjustments here from Zachary. Maybe think about bringing in that Whimsicott to either go for a Tailwind or a Trick Room. I think even an Encore in the right position could be useful. But yeah, really have to protect your Fluttermane a little bit more. But even the Urshifu in a little bit of a better position can do some really, really good damage there.
Yeah, I wonder what Zachary is going to be able to do to switch it up. We did not see that Whimsicott in game number 1 that has that Tailwind and Trick Room option. Does have access to that Encore as well, so we could be potentially seeing some way to lock down Incineroars on Hideo's side with the Fake Out locking it in, or even against other Pokemon that went for Protects, like the Ogerpon itself. I'm hoping to see how Zachary is able to bring game number 2 to a victory to go to game number 3, and we're going to see the leads here. Zachary's going to be bringing out a Heartflame Mask, Ogerpon, and Fluttermane, while Hideo is going to be showing the Urshifu and the Fluttermane.
Yeah, both Fluttermanes staring each other down here. The Ogerpon in the lead once more, and the Urshifu now next to the opposing Fluttermane. Photosynthesis boost on both sides there, and this is also already an interesting turn. Again, the Fluttermane technically is threatened to, be KO'd by the Urshifu if it decides to ignore it. So you either have to not ignore the Urshifu here, but the opposing Fluttermane is almost just as threatening, since it can go for something like a Thunder Wave and Icy Wind to get that speed control going, and that can be really, really hard to deal with here as well. So I feel like maybe the Fluttermane on Zachary's side is even coming out a bit too early and should have started out in the back, but we'll see how this turn plays out. The Fluttermane on Hideo's side is actually going to switch out here this turn, and it is going to be the Incineroar coming in here to lower the attack on this opposing Ogerpon just one stage. And so the Fluttermane will get to attack first, but no, the Urshifu is going to go for a Detect this turn to protect itself from any moves. Shadow Ball into the Incineroar that was the opposing Fluttermane, of course, is going to take that very, very nicely. The Ogerpon going for that Wood Hammer into the protecting Urshifu is not going to be doing any damage this turn.
Yeah, it looks like Zachary was trying to just take out the Fluttermane in one shot, but doesn't get the access to that. Going to be going into a resisted Urshifu, or resisted Incineroar, my mistake. And the Ogerpon not able to get any damage on. And now the Incineroar on the field doing really well matchup-wise into both the Ogerpon and Zachary's Fluttermane. So it's going to be tough to see how we're going to be able to pivot in this situation. Fluttermane going to be switching in the back for Zachary, going to be bringing in his own Raging Bolt for the first time in the set. Now you are going to be staring down a good matchup with your Raging Bolt into the Urshifu. As a Terastallization going to be used on the Urshifu, on Hideo's side, it's going to be that Terra Steel, so trying to give it a resistance to a Wood Hammer attack on Zachary's Ogerpon. We could try to see a KO immediately here into that Ogerpon. Fake Out going to be used, getting a little cheeky critical hit that could matter for certain damage rolls, as the Surging Strike is actually going to be going into what was the Fluttermane, but now the Raging Bolt.
Yeah, the old Raging Bolt coming out here, also a very nice adaptation, in my opinion, from Zachary. It can also, be just as useful for him as it was for Hideo in that game 1. The Urshifu now, having gone for the Terra Steel, means that it is rid of any electric-type weaknesses, but gains that fire-type weakness, which can make things a little easier for this Ogerpon. In the one turn where it does Terra, also it protected itself from any potential grass moves, but now the Terra Steel is out. So suddenly it's not the Fluttermane's job anymore to take it out, or the Raging Bolt. The Ogerpon can also just go for an Ivy Cudgel into it, no problem.
Yeah, let's see how this turn plays out. Urshifu did go for that Terastallize into a Steel type, but now we know exactly what we need to do. It's going to be an Ivy Cudgel into the Urshifu. Not enough to do the one-hit KO. Looks like it's just going to be a Surging Strikes into this Ogerpon, getting the first hit, getting that second hit. It may not be enough to pick up the KO, and it's not going to be enough. Living on very low red HP, as the Raging Bolt going to be the one to act next, getting some decent damage in on that Thunderbolt. More crucially, going to be forcing the Incineroar to consume its Citrus Berry, getting that additional healing, so that Thunderbolt really ended up just going back to a neutral position, as Incineroar are going to be using Knockoff to get rid of Raging Bolt's Citrus Berry, so we're not going to be able to see that in this game.
Yeah, Urshifu and Ogerpon both just barely missing the KOs on each other, but still some very important damage there. The Raging Bolt also now have taken that knockoff means that it is lost its Citrus Berry, and the Incineroar, it did get to eat its Citrus Berry and recover a little bit of health, but now question is, what do you still do with this Ogerpon and Zachary's side? I believe he just locked in a follow me, so just wants to redirect some moves away from his Raging Bolt to be able to maybe go for something like just a Thunderbolt or a Dragon Pulse to take out one of Hideo's Pokemon. Ogerpon gonna go for a follow me here, redirecting any moves, and it is going to be the Raging Bolt going first into the Incineroar. Does a good amount of damage. It actually gets the paralysis, the 10% chance to get that onto the Incineroar. Parting Shot coming out, and the Raging Bolt definitely happy to not have taken that special attack drop. Ogerpon, being at such low HP, probably doesn't care about that as much as the Raging Bolt would, and that's going to give Hideo a free switch in here now into something else. Is going to be that Flutter Mane coming in. That is looking very, very nice here against Zachary's low HP Raging Bolt and Ogerpon. Like, a Dazzling Gleam could really, really hurt here, and there's not a lot that Zachary can really do about that.
And this is going to be a tough situation. You look at the HP values on Zachary's Pokemon. Ogerpon's going to be only hanging on with a thread of HP left, but the Raging Bolt is going to be threatened by Hideo's Flutter Mane. Could be going for a Moonblast into that target, and you may not want to go for a Terrestrialization here. Ogerpon going to be using Follow Me, trying to redirect any moves coming out of Hideo's Pokemon. It's going to be Aqua Jet on the Urshifu, just picking up the KO, and the Ogerpon going to be the one to act first. So now the Flutter Mane, if it decided to go for the Moonblast, it's going to get free reign into some extra damage. Thunderbolt, or Thunderclap, should I say, is actually going to be able to target into the Flutter Mane, but it's not going to be enough. Moonblast is going to be getting the KO onto the low HP Raging Bolt. That is going to be 2 Pokemon down on Zachary's side of the field, forced to switch in another Pokemon in that Urshifu and the Flutter Mane in the back, and Hideo still has 4 Pokemon remaining.
Hideo is really, really close to becoming the Juniors EUIC champion of 2026, and just 2 Pokemon he needs to get past here now. He still has 4 Pokemon himself, one of them very low HP right now, and one of them has not even been revealed yet, so he must be feeling really, really confident now. It's not over yet, but looking really good here for him. Now the Flutter Mane and the Urshifu, both there's the mirror match here, staring each other down. You know, Zachary's Pokemon here, they are still both at full HP. That is one advantage he does have, but the movesets on both of these Flutter Mane are completely different. You know, Hideo still has the opportunity for a lot of speed control, but is going to switch out that Flutter Mane for now, which of course, you know, has lost its photosynthesis boost since it was there in the lead and it got switched out. The Incineroar actually coming in here now. Also, not a lot of HP left on that Pokemon. Double switch here from Hideo is going to bring in his final Pokemon that has not been revealed yet, and it is going to be that Raging Bolt, still at full HP, and now Zachary is going to commit his final Terra of this game too into that Flutter Mane, which is going to be that Terra Fairy. So I'm expecting that we'll see a very powerful Dazzling Gleam coming out here. It's definitely not over yet. The Aqua Jet into the Incineroar barely misses the KO there as the Dazzling Gleam comes out. This Raging Bolt is Assault Vest, so the special defense is boosted and doesn't even take half damage from that super effective hit.
Yeah, this Flutter Mane had already used its booster energy item, so you're not able to get that extra damage that you potentially wanted to see. Urshifu was able to pick up the target into the Incineroar. If you were actually able to get a critical hit, you could have forced Dazzling Gleam to be a single target attack to make the Raging Bolt take even more damage, but it's not going to be the case right now. It just took about 40% of its HP, so another Dazzling Gleam, unless you get a critical hit, might not be able to pick up a KO into that Pokemon. The Flutter Mane is going to be switching back into the battlefield. It's going to be interesting to see how this play turns out. I don't think we've seen the speed interactions on these Flutter Manes, so we don't know who's going to be faster than who. Is Hideo going to be able to move first and go for something like a Thunder Wave to start locking down this game against Zachary, or are we going to see an interesting interaction where the Fluttermane on Zachary's side is able to outspeed?
Zachary's Fluttermane here, if it does go first, is in a really, really nice spot to make a huge comeback here for him and take out any remaining Pokemon on Hideo's side. The Raging Bolt has already taken a good amount of damage. Urshifu is going to go for the Detect here to protect itself from any damage this turn. Fluttermane from Zachary is the Pokemon to go first, goes for a powerful Moonblast and takes out that Raging Bolt, but that is going to give Hideo's Fluttermane a chance to go for a move itself here. Could go for an Icy Wind, could go for a Thunder Wave. It is going to be the Icy Wind here, is going to hit into both of these Pokemon, but Urshifu protecting itself, but now Hideo's Fluttermane should be the faster one. Critical hit there means a little bit more damage, but now it is Fluttermane and Urshifu versus Fluttermane and Urshifu, and Hideo has the speed advantage here.
Yeah, because of the Icy Wind drop, the Fluttermane on Zachary's side of the field is going to definitely be moving slower than the Fluttermane on Hideo, and potentially the Urshifu that Hideo has could be faster than this Fluttermane now, which means that Surging Strikes into the Fluttermane will almost certainly be able to pick up the KO that you need to become your European International Championships. It does carry that Mystic Water, so it does have that extra boosted damage to maybe get the KO in the range it needs to be. Urshifu on Zachary's side of the field still holding on to that Focus Sash, so this game is still not over yet. If you are able to start getting attacks in, and look at that HP value. I actually forgot that the Urshifu had taken so much damage from the Ivy Cudgel earlier on, so now we're in a almost in a weird situation where the Urshifu on Zachary's side could go for an Aqua Jet, take out the Urshifu, and you're left with your Fluttermane and Urshifu against only Hideo's Fluttermane. Let's see how this interaction is going to play.
Yeah, we haven't seen yet which Urshifu is faster. If both of these Urshifu go for an Aqua Jet, you know, Hideo deciding that, okay, my Urshifu is at low HP and it's probably going to go down to an opposing Aqua Jet. I'm going to try and get an Aqua Jet out myself before that happens. This is still very, very close, and I think it's going to come down to which of these Urshifu gets to attack first. Does Hideo still get that Aqua Jet damage out? But Aqua Jet actually going into the Fluttermane on Hideo's side as the Icy Wind comes out here, breaks the Focus Sash on Zachary's side, lowers Fluttermane's speed one more stage, so that is going to give Hideo a chance to go for a huge Surging Strikes into that Fluttermane and take it out, and that should already be game, because I'm not sure if another Aqua Jet is going to knock out the Fluttermane on Hideo's side.
Yeah, it looks like Zachary just made a slight misplay, maybe thinking that he could have been faster than the opposing Urshifu on Hideo's side of the field. And the Focus Sash has now been broken again by that Icy Wind. So there's not much that can be done here. Let's see what happens in this turn. Zachary still going to play it out, not going to go for the full concession yet. Looks like it's just going to be a Moonblast from Hideo into the Urshifu, and that is going to be enough to pick up the KO. Hideo Izeu is going to be your European International Champion in the Juniors division.
What a fantastic endgame there by Hideo. You know, the Aqua Jet could have also gone into the opposing Urshifu. It was at very low HP, so that might have been able to take it out, and then you would have only had your Urshifu and your Fluttermane against the opposing Fluttermane, which, you know, only has one double targeting move in that Icy Wind, otherwise only has that Moonblast, and that could have still, you know, turned that game around for Zachary. But my god, still very well played by both players. Huge congrats to Hideo, and I mean, just what an amazing showcase of skill here in the juniors division as well.
Yeah, it was greatly played from both players. There's definitely an out for Zachary in that situation, but may have just been thinking about a different way to win, and it just ultimately did not end up happening. Hideo gets another crown in his already illustrious career in VGC, being a Japanese finalist and Japanese champion in the Japanese championship circuit. Now adding to the list, it's going to be a European International Champion. And again, these are only juniors division players. If they continue playing, they're going to age up into the seniors and potentially the masters division. So they're already off to an incredible start in their careers.
The seniors division better watch out for both of these players very soon as they age up. But yeah, the entire crowd here cheering for Hideo. What an amazing match that was. I'm super impressed by how both of these players played that best of three, in my opinion. It's some of the best juniors division matches I have personally seen. And I'm so glad that we get to showcase, not only the Masters division, we got to feature a few of the Seniors division matches yesterday as well. But as far as juniors go, we don't get to see too much of that. So really exciting to see a match like this.
Yeah, we are going to be able to listen to some of the, interviews that Costa is going to bring in. So we're going to just try to listen in on that. Big congratulations to Hideo again being your European International Champion.
Hideo, you are the champion.
Yeah, I'm gonna give Costa the reins here and let him interview it, and we'll listen to it.
今の気持ちはどうですか？今は優勝してEUIC 勝てて安心してます。He is relieved that he was able to win.
And what a way to go about it. You did such a great job, my friend. What I'd like to ask you is, do you have anybody that you would like to say hi to that may be in the crowd, or anyone to say thank you to with all of the preparation you may have done?
応援した人、ありがとうと言いたい人、挨拶したい人いますか？3ヶ月間、指導してくれたアルカナさんと、僕の友達の雄大くんです。He would like to thank his coach, Arukana, and his friend, Yudai-kun.
There you have it. One last round of applause for our EUIC Junior Champion, Hideo Uitu! Thank you so much, Hideo. You put on such a great show, but it's not...
Looks like that is going to be it for Costa. We're going to be getting into our Seniors Division finals up and coming soon. But again, once again, congratulations to Hideo Uezu for winning the Juniors Division finals.
Yeah, fully agree with everything Costa had to say about how amazing he played that. And I believe we will be going possibly into a very short break before we head for the Seniors finals, which will be happening in just a few moments. So Pokemon trainers, stay tuned for more. And we are ready to head into the Seniors finals in just a moment here. We just saw an amazing Juniors finals, and we already got to feature some of the senior matches yesterday, so I am super stoked that we also get to see the finals here in just a moment. We already once again got to take a look at the team sheets a little earlier. We will have Leland versus Charlie, and once again we have a bit of a mirror match going here, but a very different one in comparison to the juniors.
Yeah, I believe I'm correct. I saw someone else talking in a group chat that I'm in that this is almost an exact mirror match. These two are friends and they were team building this team in the background, trying to make it sure that they are going to be able to win the seniors division at the European International Championships. And guess what? Both players are going to be in the finals with their respective teams. So congratulations. Let's look at Charlie Kim's accomplishments. Sao Paulo LAIC finals, very accomplished there. Honolulu top 8. NA online 2026 Grand Challenge #1 winner for their division. And again, 3 times regional championships.
Man, it must feel so great always to not only do well at the tournament yourself, but then to be facing your friend in the final as well with the same team. At that point, that both of you cooked and that you cooked really well. And this team just worked, and it's in the final now, not once, but twice, and is definitely winning the tournament here. But which one of them is going to be winning will be finding out in just a little bit. Both of these players getting ready to head into this match. And once again, I have to ask myself, how many times have they already played against each other? How many times have they played this mirror? Is this the first time, only the second time? Is it a matchup that they figured out already? It is the Landorus, the Chiyu, the Raging Bolt, Urshifu, Rapid Strike, the Tornadus incarnate form, and of course, the Smeargle with the Decorate, which I am so excited to see.
Yes, Smeargle is not a common pickup Pokemon in Regulation F. It was seen pretty frequently, especially at the World Championships this past year in the double restricted metagame of Regulation I, because it did have a good matchup into Calyrex Shadow Rider, and also being able to access multiple different utility moves like that Fake Out, Spore, Follow Me, and Decorate being one of the strongest status moves you can honestly run. It gives you a +2 special attack boost, so now your special attack attacking Pokemon, Landorus, Tornadus, and your Raging Bolt can do even more damage on top of the Chiyu as well. And I definitely want to point out that this Urshifu single strike, definitely a little bit uncommon as well. It's going to be rocking that choice band, so it's going to be increasing its attack power on all of its physical type attack moves at the restriction of only being able to use one move once it's already hit the battlefield. Let's go over to our other competitor in just a moment. Looks like we're just trying to get some tech issues resolved. We would like to get them resolved before the match begins, but I know if we already saw the teams before, we're going to be seeing almost the exact same team, and let's talk about it again.
Yeah, the choice specs on the Chiyu, the choice band on the Urshifu, in combination with the Smeargle boosting up their attack or special attack respectively by another 2 stages, just means that both of these Pokemon are going to be hitting so incredibly hard. But honestly, anything can really appreciate a Decorate boost on this team, and you have enough speed control going as well with the Tornadus. But I have to really wonder if, you know, if these two are friends and they've team built together, are we going to see a lot of speed ties here? And how important are they going to be? We already had a mirror match in, you know, Flavio Del Pio versus Francesco Pioperlo, and there it felt like the speed controls or the speed ties, yeah, they happened a lot, but they weren't always like the most important factor when playing the mirror match. So I'm really curious here as to how much they will matter in, you know, this matchup. And we will be getting into game 1 in just a little bit. There, the Fluttermane plush staring right out into the open. Looks amazing in my opinion, and the Urshifu plush as well. And some great plushies there on stream.
Yeah, I do love it when Pokemon trainers bring their beloved Pokemon plushies onto the stream. It just shows their dedication to the craft and also just shows a little bit of their background. We did see that Urshifu plush on the side of the stream with the Whimsicott. Also, the little baby Whimsicott, it's actually not even sitting on its little tiny legs. It's actually going to be sitting on its little cotton hairs. That's pretty cool to see. I love to see it when Pokemon trainers bring that. You also see the Regidrago and the Smeargle on that side as well. It's just a great aspect of Pokemon.
Yeah, I'm also seeing a Regidrago plush there and a little Smeargle plush. So yeah, they're all ready to go here into this finals for the EUIC 2026. And man, if I'm also once again really curious about especially the leads. You know, are we going to see a perfect mirror lead, or is this a matchup where there are several different Pokemon you can bring in the front, and maybe, you know, you have to make some calls as to what your opponent might do? Again, we only know that they're friends and they team build together. We don't know how often they have played this matchup against each other before. I'm really curious to see, like, is this Chiyu also going to come into play, and then with its ability gonna help the special attackers on the team deal even more damage? Or are we going to stick to just the Urshifu, which, you know, has the physical moves but can always only hit one target at a time? The Chiyu would have the ability to go for a heat wave to hit multiple targets, but it's not really going to be super effective against a dragon type like the Raging Bolt. And it's, on the other hand, it's not like the Smeargle has a wide guard or something to block those special moves. Something that you do need to keep in mind about Heat Wave and Overheat, and something Chiyu is very well known for, is to every now and then miss one of those very powerful moves.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get a slow-paced matchup here in the seniors finals. Both teams have very offensive-oriented Pokemon, and not like a typical defensive backbone core like those Rillabooms, Incineroars, and Amoonguses that we've seen in other matches all throughout the weekend. I feel like the lead matchup for both players is going to be so crucial that if you do not get what you need on the lead or even in the first or second turns, you could just end up in a terrible, terrible position. But it's all going to depend on what kind of strategies they're going to use. Are they going to use the Smeargle to try to set up a Decorate for an explosive 2+2 in attack to start picking up the KOs that you need? Or are you just going to go try to bank on your choice Pokemon to get as much damage in as I believe we're going to get into this game? Game number 1 of the seniors finals at the Pokemon European International Championships. We're going to see a Tornadus and Raging Bolt for Charlie Kim, as we see a matching Tornadus with a Chi-Yu for Leland Smith.
The leads are out, and it is not the same leads on both sides. It is Tornadus on both sides, yeah, but the Chi-Yu and the Raging Bolt respectively. And we're going to start right away with a Terrestrialization here. It's going to be on that Tornadus, going to Terrestrialize into the Ghost type. So probably, or might be there to lose your weakness to an Electric type from this Raging Bolt, as the Tailwind comes out first from Charlie Kim's side, and it is also going to be a Thunderbolt follow-up into that Tornadus that did go for the Terra Ghost, so it's not going to go down, following up a Bleak Wind Storm. So much damage into this Tornadus thanks to the Sharpie, a speed drop on that Pokemon, and a Snarl is going to take out the Tornadus from Charlie here in this turn 1, but it did get off the Tailwind, and maybe that is all that Charlie needed from that Pokemon, though he does look a little bit frustrated there, so maybe he was hoping that it hangs on with just a little bit more HP, but now gets a free switch in into either the Landorus or the Urshifu within this Tailwind. But of course, Tornadus having the Prankster ability means that Leland can still go for a Tailwind of his own before his Tornadus goes down.
Yeah, that was an interesting maneuver there from Leland. That was a very risky one because Bleak Wind Storm and Snarl are not guaranteed 100% accurate moves. You're not able to guarantee that turn was going to work in your favor, but it ended up getting 2 double connects on both targets. And you still didn't use that Tailwind move just yet, so you could stagger by 1 turn, and that is exactly what Leland is going to be doing, activating that Tailwind and making sure that you are now on equal level with their Pokemon. But it looks like the Urshifu is going to be faster than this Chi-Yu, able to use the close combat into that Dark-type Pokemon. No more Terrestrialization into that Terra Ghost because the Tornadus had already Terrestrialized. That is going to be a KO onto that Pokemon. Raging Bolt next to act is now going to be using Snarl to pick up another KO onto Leland's Pokemon. The Tornadus is going to be going down, and Leland had a pretty good solid start in the first turn of game number 1. Now gonna be having to reveal the last 2 Pokemon in the back.
This is going by really, really quickly. 3 Pokemon already down on the field, and it is Raging Bolt and Urshifu coming in here for Leland. And so we have the mirror again going on the field. The difference being, of course, that Charlie Kim does still have a Pokemon in the back, and although Raging Bolt has taken some damage here, the Tailwind is still on the field. You still have a few turns of it going, and it's not over yet. You know, it could get very, very close here, but the Urshifu also is locked in, or the Urshifu on Charlie Kim's side is locked into the close combat right now, which is alright, but you did lose some defense stats there as well. So even though Charlie Kim still has 1 more Pokemon in the back, it is still definitely possible for Leland to turn this around.
Yep, and we still have a Terrestrialization function on Charlie's side of the field. Could be using that in the face of another Raging Bolt. Again, both of these trainers have almost an exact mirror of Pokemon 6 on 6, but we still don't actually know if any of the stat distributions are going to be different. We're going to see the turn play out. It's going to be a KO onto that Pokemon. Looks like another KO onto another Pokemon. Leland going to be taking a KO, at least in this turn. Raging Bolt going to go for that Thunderbolt. Not going to be able to do that much into the Raging Bolt, as we do see Charlie Kim bring in the last Pokemon on the side. It's going to be that Landorus. Going to have a pretty decent matchup into even Assault Vest Raging Bolt, because now you can just start using those Earth powers. And looks like Charlie, understanding that situation, is going to just concede here.
And he looks very, very happy about that game 1 win. That went by really, really quickly. A very fast-paced match, and I wouldn't be too surprised if the second game happens just as quickly. Or maybe, perhaps both of these players will adjust to something a little more defensive. But generally, this team looks like a very hyper-offensive, quick, lots of damage very quickly kind of team. So wouldn't be too surprised if that happens again in game 2 as well. Question is, what kind of adaptations do you make here now as Leland? It is a perfect mirror match here, so once again, do you lead something different? Do you also go for the same lead that Charlie Kim went for in game 1? The close combat there, also came out perfectly on that Chiyu in the right turn. The Terra was already committed on the Tornadus, and then also went into the other dark type, being that Urshifu. So maybe if you're Leland, you have to be a little more conservative in terms of using your Terra. It did help you survive that first turn, being able to take the Thunderbolt with the Tornadus. But, then not having the Terra anymore afterwards made things a lot trickier. That Chiyu could have gone for a Terra Ghost, the Urshifu could have gone for a Terra Poison, both which resist a fighting type move.
Yeah, it's important to note on that last turn, we did see the Urshifu against an Urshifu, and Charlie was popping off knowing that his Urshifu was moving first. I'm curious to see if that was going to be a potential speed tie, knowing that if Charlie did not get that attack off, it would not have been able to get a KO in the subsequent turn. Let's see what happens here. Charlie is going to be leading Tornadus and Urshifu Dark for game number 2, as Leland is going to be leading Chiyu and Tornadus, so it's going to be running it back from game 1.
Yeah, so Charlie actually the one making the adaptation here, despite being one game in the lead right now. But the Terra options are open now again for both players, of course. But no Terra coming out here. This time Leland's Tornadus being the one to set up the Tailwind here first is going to be matched by Charlie Kim's Tornadus here, which is also setting up the Tailwind. And the Urshifu going first, just going to go for a close combat into that Chiyu, not caring for the threat of the potential Terra Ghost, is just going to take that Pokemon out. And a Chiyu, we know how much damage a Chiyu can do, and it just went down turn 1 there. And now the Urshifu for Leland coming in, gonna face off against the opposing Urshifu, which is now locked into close combat. But that is a very nice move to be locked in here right now, if it means you can just go for it into the opposing Urshifu. Terras are still open though, and that is exactly what we're going to see right now.
Yep, it's going to go to the Terra Poison, so any type of close combat attacks to potentially pick up those one-hit KOs that we saw in game number 1 are going to be null and void here, as we do see Wicked Blow on Leland's side. Going to get a one-hit KO onto a Tornadus. That is very incredible. We obviously know how strong Wicked Blow Choice Band Urshifu can be. It's going to be that close combat because it is locked into that move by that choice band restriction. Urshifu is not going to be able to even pick up 50% of HP onto the Urshifu. Looks like it's going to be a Bleak Wind Storm. It's going to get that connection into the Urshifu. Now picking up a double KO here. Now Charlie is going to have to bring 2 of his unrevealed Pokemon in the back, while Leland is sitting very well here.
Yeah, but the Terra is still open for Charlie Kim. The Terra Poison there coming out to, of course, resist that close combat. And very fair to first, watch what Charlie decides to lock in with his own Urshifu. It could have also been a Wicked Blow into, a predicting the Terra Ghost on the Chiyu, something like that. But now, knowing for sure that it was locked into close combat, you could go for that Terra. Same way, though, Charlie can also now easily go for something like a Terra Ghost on his Chiyu, but it's actually going to be terrestrializing the Raging Bolt into the Fairy type here. So going to be able to also resist any close combats from this Urshifu. But Tornadus is going to go for a Protect here first. Does not want to take any electric types from the Raging Bolt, as Urshifu locked into the Wicked Blow is going to go for that move into the Raging Bolt and going to do a good amount of damage, as Chiyu goes for the Heat Wave, is going to actually not miss the Urshifu, is going to be able to take that out. That took like a second longer than I expected it to, and I thought that it would miss the Urshifu.
Yeah, sometimes it just takes a little bit with the animations. The Raging Bolt going to be using that Dragon Pulse into the protecting Tornadus. Leland Smith only has 1 unrevealed Pokemon in the back. This has to be the help that he needs. It's going to be that Landorus that could be a potential tool here to win this game. These Landoruses have the access to Sandsear Storm, which does hit both Pokemon if they were to connect. It is not a 100% accurate move, so it's going to come down to a crucial turn here. Liquid Mist is going to go into the Chiyu only. Let's see the Earth Power into the Landorus. It's going to take out the Chiyu now. That is a great target. It means that the Chiyu's boosted special attack, special defense drops are not going to be mattering in this matchup anymore. Dragon Pulse is going to be going into the Landorus, going to be doing well over 50% HP. But here's the problem. The Raging Bolt cannot use Thunderclap into a ground-type Pokemon in the Landorus. It's going to have to try to shrug off both attacks. Bleakwind Storm is going to miss the Raging Bolt as well. The Landorus is going to be next to move. It's going to be the Sludge Bomb. Is it going to be enough? It's going to hang on with 11% or 11 HP on the turn. Landorus is going to go down, and now it's going to be a 1v1 between the Tornadus and the Raging Bolt. This is not where you want to see. It's going to come down to a mind game.
Oh, absolutely a mind game. The Tornadus is going to go for a Protect here. This Pokemon is going to go down to a Thunderclap. So now we have a Thunderclap mind game end game here. Which player is going to get it? As soon as the Thunderclap goes out in a turn where the Tornadus attacks, it's just going to go down. But you can only use Thunderclap 7 more times now if you're Charlie Kim. But the Tornadus does not only have to catch the Raging Bolt in a turn where it does not go for a Thunderclap, it has to also hit its Bleakwind Storm. So now the question is, if you're Charlie Kim, do you just keep going for Thunderclaps, hoping that the Tornadus will maybe predict one turn where it does not go for it? It's just going to go for it. It's not going to get the KO on this Tornadus here. The Bleakwind Storm connects, and that is going to be game 2, going to Leland. My god, okay, I was so convinced that that Thunderclap would get the KO, but it is just a little bit weaker than Thunderbolt, so not enough to get that KO. Could have been a damage roll, could have just, been the calculations on that Pokemon. What an end game there for this finals, and we are heading into a game 3.
That's incredible. Even Leland thinking, I don't think I survive a Thunderclap from a Raging Bolt. It is a strong base power move, and especially knowing that you are going to be weak to it as a flying type Pokemon, it is not a guarantee. But we saw the Tornadus was able to live with just barely any HP remaining, still had to hit that Bleakwind Storm in order to finish off the Raging Bolt because it missed an earlier Bleakwind Storm. And Leland is going to be able to bring this back into a game number 3 in a very tight situation. So let's see how these trainers are able to adapt. We saw Charlie Kim switching up the leads on game number 2 and game number 1, or game 1 and game 2. It's been the same leads for Leland. So I'm curious to see if he's going to try to switch it up despite winning game number 2.
These sharp beak Bleakwind Storms are so powerful. We saw also in the replays just how many KOs it got. All of these Pokemon hitting back so hard, but also, surviving some moves with just a little bit of HP just goes to show how well these trainers did in training their Pokemon, not only in the offensive stats, but also the correct amount in their defensive stats. And so I'm really excited and really curious to see how this game 3 is going to play out. Are we going to see another Chi-Yu lead next to a Tornadus? Or is Leland going to be switching things up now in this game 3? The leads are out. It is Raging Bolt and Thunderous up, or Tornadus up against another Tornadus, and Urshifu lead this time. So once again, the Terras are all open. The Urshifu are not locked into any choice band moves yet, and based on what kind of decisions these players do here in the first turn, the others are going to have to adapt to that, which I feel like that's the pattern I'm seeing in this best of 3 so far, that it really depends on what your opponent does. We are going to see a switch out here into the Raging Bolt as a Tailwind comes out here for Leland. No Tailwind for Charlie in this turn. And a Thunderbolt going to come out into the opposing Raging Bolt, going to take that very nicely. And Wicked Blow is the move that Charlie locks into, takes out that Tornadus. It did manage to get the Tailwind up, but we saw how well the Bleakwind Storms also worked for Leland in that game too. Those are not going to be available to him now in this game 3.
That was a great defensive pivot for Leland to be able to call the Thunderbolt into that spot. Going to be using that Raging Bolt to be resisting that Thunderbolt to just soak up the damage. The Urshifu we did see in game number 1 that Leland's Urshifu was able to pick up a one-hit KO into the Tornadus on Charlie's side. Now doing the reverse, Urshifu going to go for the Bleak Wind Storm into the Tornadus on Leland's side, picking up the KO. And more importantly, Tailwind is now gone for the rest of the game for Leland, whereas Charlie still has access to it later. That could be very important to know later on. Charlie going to be retreating this Rage Bolt into the back for the Landorus, trying to switch up here, playing a little bit more defensive, but trying to get key pieces in the right position. Sandseer Storm going to be obviously missing that Landorus, going to be attacking into the Urshifu. Still not enough, hanging on by a thread, but a Raging Bolt is going to be moving next, going to be Can on the Urshifu.
There's just a KO happening every single turn here. As we said before, a very fast-paced team, it seems here. But Landorus out here now staring against each other. And the Tornadus for Charlie now coming out is also going to give him an opportunity to go for a Tailwind of his own to even out the speed control playing field a little bit. And this Raging Bolt really threatened by the Landorus here, as it could just go for an Earth Power into that slot. But the Tornadus actually deciding to go for a Protect. Sludge Bomb, though, going into the opposing Landorus here on Charlie Kim's side as a Dragon Pulse follow-up, not gonna fall for Protect, but survives with just 6 HP. Earth Power into the Rage Bolt is also going to survive with just a little bit of HP. This is just way too much for me right now. It's so close, and anything can still happen here. Oh my, I'm getting nervous for these players here. This is just way too intense.
Let's see what happens. The Tornadus is finally going to be using that Tailwind to match the Tailwind on Leland's side of the field. The next to act is going to be the Landorus, going to be outspeeding the opposing Landorus on Leland's side. It's going to get the KO onto the Raging Bolt. That is a key piece gone. And now let's see what Leland is going to be able to do. It's going to be that Sludge Bomb into the Tornadus, dropping it really low, about 75% HP gone. But here is the important part. The Tailwind is now gone on Leland's side, and Tailwind was just set up on Charlie's side. So we should be able to see guaranteed outspeeds here for the remainder of this game. The Landorus has access to go for a Earth Power into the Urshifu. We are not sure if that's going to potentially pick up the KO it needs, but we also have the Tornadus. If you are able to connect a Bleak Wind Storm at any point, you could potentially drop even more speed or just pick up the KOs that you need here.
A Bleak Wind Storm could be huge here. It's just speed ties and speed control left and right here on both of these sides. Leland is down to his final 2 Pokemon. The Sucker Punch Mind Games are also back here. Is going to fail here as the Earth Power from the Landorus comes out. It's just going to take out the Urshifu here on Leland's side, and he is down to his last Pokemon. It's only the Landorus remaining here for him. It goes for a Sludge Bomb, takes out the opposing Landorus, but now you do need to deal with both this Tornadus and this Raging Bolt still. But you are a Landorus. That is like a Pokemon that deals quite well with the Raging Bolt, and of course the Tornadus has also already taken some damage. Your Landorus is still at full HP. It is definitely not over yet here. This could be very close. Might depend on if Bleak Wind Storms connect. Bleak Wind Storm, so much damage into that Landorus. Is there going to be a speed drop? No speed drop, but the Raging Bolt in the Tailwind is faster, and it's just going to take out that Landorus. And Charlie Kim, with that, is your EUIC 2026 champion in the seniors division.
What a great call from Charlie, recognizing that Leland was going to use the Sucker Punch move while being choice locked afterwards into that Tornadus, going to go for that Protect, very risky, and realizing that you had the win condition there to go for the Earth Power into the Urshifu, knock it out, making sure that Leland only had 1 Pokemon remaining. You had the Tailwind up, and you were able to just sweep through the rest of the game by attacking into that Landorus. Charlie Kim is going to be your EUIC champion in the seniors division. Very congratulations to him.
What an amazing set that was from both players. My god, that was so fast-paced, so well played by both sides. There were, speed control or speed ties at some points with this being a perfect mirror match, but I feel like still both players, they did what they had to do. They clicked the correct buttons, and it just happened to be that things worked out for Charlie Kim barely. I mean, we had a 3-game set here, and Costa already getting ready to interview Charlie Kim, and we will be listening to that in just a moment. My god, big congratulations to him. I am so impressed with that finals.
Thank you very much. We have got yet another champion, but now for the seniors division, make some noise for Charlie Kim! Charlie, you must be so full of emotions, but let's just talk talk about this. You're up against your friend, and you've been able to just come out on top of the exact same team. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I was really nervous going into it. I did a lot of prep, and I knew that I couldn't win by being safe. So I had to take a lot of risks, and I'm glad that my risks paid off.
And they truly did, especially the back and forth. And we saw the game 3 return, so huge congratulations. Of course, commiserations for Lila too. But you are the champion, my friend. This is your moment. So I want to give you an opportunity to give any shout-outs or any highs to anybody in the venue or at home, or any family you've got as well here.
I'd like to shout out my family first. I couldn't be able to do this without them. And then I'd like to shout out my coaches, Chris Hahn, Justin Tang, and Keanu. And then I'd also like to shout out my friends who helped me, Issa, Sam, Leland, and All Spaghetti, and 7 Billion.
Beautiful stuff. Thank you so much, Charlie. You heard it from your seniors division champion here at EUIC 2026. So with that being said, thank you so much, Charlie. Please, we'll allow you a moment to go celebrate in the revel of your title. So, as we're going to go ahead and introduce our Masters Division finalists. And now, we've seen storylines develop over time, crossing from one season to another. And now we have got the reverse of last season's NAIC. Rather than EU finalists, we've got 2 NA1s from the US and a previous EUIC champion of 2023. Make some noise for Paul Chua! Thank you so much, Paul. I mean, it's amazing to have you here. But we've got another finalist as well, your opponent, let's not forget. We've seen them earlier this season go ahead, reach a finals back in Las Vegas, now being able to bring all of that momentum and consistency to EUIC. Please also make some noise for Zachary Weed! Now, guys, we already discussed storylines. You're both from NA. You've been able to reach this beautiful moment through hard work. Paul, yourself, how are you feeling? You're on the verge of becoming a 2-time international champion, but also back in terms of being able to continue your legacy from 2023.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little nervous, of course, it's the finals, but in the end, I'm just happy to be here in the finals.
100%, that is the most important thing. Zachary, from yourself, my friend, how are you feeling? This is your second finals of the season, and you've just brought all of the action, and everyone's been able to enjoy it. What are your initial thoughts going into this?
Very overwhelmed. This is all very new and very, very crazy to me, but I'm super glad to be here. Even if I lose, I'm just glad I was able to be on this stage and play.
Absolutely. Make some noise. Please make some noise. You absolutely deserve it. You are here for a reason, my friend. So, very quickly, before we allow you both to get straight into the match, do you have any passing thoughts or comments that you would like to share with either Paul or the rest of us going into this match?
Well, I'm glad I got to play another NA player in finals. We got to get revenge for NAIC last year.
Valid. All right, Paul, yourself, my friend.
I just hope it's a fun match.
And lead you both to your battle positions. Please, let's get this finals started.
Yeah, I think the players are now, they're slowly getting ready for this finals. We're moving on straight into the Masters Division finals here. And yeah, love that comment about getting revenge for NAIC there last year. And but 2 very, very good players as well. We got to see Paul Chua play on stream here already in the past 2 days. And I was so impressed with how well he played his matches. We didn't get to see Zachary play yet, but he must have also played really well if, you know, he made it all the way here. So I am super stoked for this upcoming finals.
Yep, and see the bracket path that both players were able to fight through. See that Zachary Weed had to beat Davide Fazio as well as Roberto Parente in game 3 situations to make it to the finals. And we see Paul Chua was able to beat Frederick Nielsen 2-0 and Francisco Piopero as well as 2-0 to make it to the finals. So both players having a slightly different path here, had to beat top European players in this circuit, but both had to do it in slightly different ways. So congrats to both players. Again, they're both from the NA region, both from the United States, able to represent that region at the European International Championships.
Yeah, we saw Paul Chua play Francesco Piopero, not or we saw him play twice against that matchup, and I was really, really impressed with how Paul Chua navigated through that matchup because it felt like Francesco did have a plan for, you know, the standard bold balance kind of team that we see a lot of, that Paul Chua really recognized so well what the strategy from Francesco was and navigated around that really nicely. So also I'm not too surprised that he managed to do that again in semifinals and managed to make it all the way here, and now only has to get past Zachary Weed in order to become a 2-time EUIC winner. He must be so stoked, but as he also said, I hope that this is just going to be a fun match.
If we're looking at Zachary Weed, again, he was able to finish second place at the Las Vegas Regional Championships, coming down to a nail-biter Game 3 set. You know that he wants to be able to close out another tournament and an even bigger tournament at an international event. Las Vegas was only a regular regional event. So if you're able to win here, you're going to stamp yourself in the history books of Pokemon VGC. It's going to be an incredible match. And look, I just want to give a quick shout out. Look at that little Mousehold plushie. Zachary Weed being one of my local players, he always brings the Mouseholds to the tables to just represent his Pokemon.
Oh, that is so cute. The muscle plushie there here to support him in this final match of the EUIC weekend. And what a weekend it has been. And this is our very final match, not just of VGC, but also of all the other events here. And some of their family members and friends here on the field to maybe talk a little bit about them and hype them on. As you know, we have gotten to see the team sheets a little bit as well. The 6 Pokemon are down there, and we didn't get a look at our caster predictions again, but a lot of them are in finals here.
And having a friend in final.
Yeah, let's listen into Costa with
Exactly as
the
it must
members
be, so I'm gonna
and
have to ask the
friends
exact same
from
question
both players.
to yourself as well, Andrew. How does it feel?
I mean, it feels great. I've been working with Zach for the last month and a half, and he's come a long way since he beat me up at Vegas, and I'm excited to see him on that stage, and I'm hoping for the best, but I also respect Paul, and I'm excited for them both.
I think it's going to be an absolute hype final as we are going to go straight to it. So,
yep, and this is this is the VG Masters Finals at the European International Championships. This is going to be the last event of the entire tournament. There's nothing else other than the closing ceremonies. Both of these players are going to duke it out to become an international championships. And let's talk about Paul Chua first, the seasoned veteran, been playing for many years across many different formats and generations. He previously won the EUIC 2023 championships all the way back at the beginning of the Scarlet and Violet era, and he wants to stamp a second one in his illustrious career.
Yeah, Costa doing a really nice job there of getting everyone hyped up. I'm already really psyched to see this final match. Both these players getting ready here right now. Zachary Weed here is playing in the finals for the first time for a champion title, and my god, how happy he would be to get that. I can only imagine, but even just getting a 2-time title of EUIC for Paul must be just as exciting. So can't wait to see this matchup. For once in a finals this year, we are not looking at a mirror match. Both of these players have 2 different teams, and we are also going to be seeing some of their accomplishments here. We've talked about them a little bit already, but yeah, they have way more than this. You just cannot fit all of their accomplishments onto just one set here on screen.
Yep, again, Paul Chua, European international champion, 6-time regional champion, regional finalist this year at Toronto, as well as a world top 4 in London back in Generation 8, where Zachary Weed, playing in his second finals appearance, obviously made it in Las Vegas, but had other top performances at NAIC and other regionals across his time in the Masters division, something that we weren't able to see, but he was the seniors division champion at Charlotte Regionals in 2023. Let's talk about Paul Chua's team. It is your prototypical Bolt balance core, as you would like to call it, with Raging Bolt as your centerpiece. It's going to be carrying that Calm Mind with Thunderclap and Dragon Pulse, carrying that Leftovers for additional healing alongside the Rillaboom with that Assault Vest, trying to make sure that it survives some crucial attacks from Zach's side of the field. Hearthflame Mask Ogerpon not going to be carrying the Follow Me. It's going to be getting that Sword Stance, trying to increase its damage output on top of that embodied Ask ability if it were to terrestrialize. Urshifu Rapid Strike going to be carrying that Focus Sash, so it's going to need to take at least 2 hits in order to KO. The Fluttermane is going to be a faster variant with the Icy Wind and Thunderwave. More importantly, it's going to be actually carrying the Protect. A lot of these Fluttermanes that run Thunderwave don't often run Protect. Instead of running, they're going to be running Taunt, as well as the last slot, it's going to be the Incineroar with no Flare Blitz. It's going to have Taunt instead.
Yeah, there's a reason why we call it Bolt Balance, because that team has just a little bit of everything. Special attack, as well as support, and a mix of it all just perfectly balanced out. And now we'll be taking a look at Zachary Weed's team. He is going to be bringing that Iron Crown and Indeedee Psy Spam combination with the Tornadus, the Landorus, Therian form, a very popular Pokemon in earlier VGC years. Now, of course, we usually see the Incarnate form, but the Therian form with the Choice Band making an appearance here as well. And of course, the Urshifu Rapid Strike, as well as the Ogerpon Hearthflame form here on Zachary's team as well. So there's some potential here for some Tailwind setup, speed control. You could, of course, also go for a Trick Room with the Indeedee if that is the route you prefer. But it's not like Paul Chua has a Tailwind of his own. He does have a Thunder Wave that he can go for. So, you know, if you want to kind of counter that, you could go for a Trick Room to reverse the speed. But we're gonna have to see what both of these players decide to do. Maybe they also just decide to start hitting hard. And we get to take a look at the trophies here that these players are fighting for. And the leads are out. We have an Urshifu and a Fluttermane here on Paul's side, facing off against the Ogerpon and Urshifu on Zachary's side.
This is going to be game number 1 of the VG Masters Finals. Fluttermane and Urshifu, the booster energy is going to be consumed. I believe it was that speed booster energy. We're going to see the Hearthflame Ogerpon and Urshifu on Zachary's side of the field. So immediately we get to see who's going to be faster. Both are going to be running those Focus Sash Urshifus. A lot of the time you end up wanting to increase your speed stat to the max. So we could be potentially seeing a speed tie here as we do go for a terrestrialization on the board for game number 1. The Urshifu is going to be the first to go. It's going to be that Terrestrial Stellar Terra, giving that boosted damage to all of its attacks at least once, and it's only going to be carrying that Surging Strikes and Close Combat. Ogerpon going to go for that Follow Me, trying to redirect anything, any attacks from Paul's side. Going to go for the Moonblast, trying to get an attack into Zach's. Urshifu not going to work out this time. Urshifu going to go for the Surging Strikes. It's going to connect into the Fluttermane, knowing it probably is a bulker variant. It could pick up the KO. It needs to at least get one more hit, and it looks like it will do it. The Surging Strikes is able to pick up the KO onto Paul's Pokemon already.
Yeah, the Urshifu here going on the offense straight away. Probably needed the Terra Stellar in order to get the KO on that Fluttermane, but that is what it is here for. Now the Surging Strikes from Paul also coming out into that Ogerpon, but that is just going to be hanging on with a little bit of HP. Paul's Urshifu not having that Stella type ready. He could have gone for a Terra Water, but Paul deciding that he still wants to keep his Terra around for a while. Brings in the Rillaboom now, so has the Fake Out Pressure ready. Could potentially also go for a Grass move into this Urshifu if he wishes to do so. A Fake Out, of course, could easily be blocked by just going for a Double Protect, but you know, Urshifu on the field for Paul as well means that he can bypass those Protects if he wishes to do so. So we might see Zachary opt to switch out this Urshifu, possibly, but could also maybe decide to try something else. But yeah, the Urshifu is going to be switching out here.
Yeah, it's going to be a switch out. It's going to go that Indeedee, going to resetting the terrain into that Psychic terrain, overriding the grassy terrain that the Rillaboom had just set down. The Indeedee is also going to be carrying that Rocky Helmet, which has a very, very good utilization against other Rapid Strike Urshifus. Because it hits 3 times, it's going to take 3 different chips of damage from the Rocky Helmet, which honestly could bring it down to half HP. Let's see how the turn plays out. Ogerpon on Zachary's side is going to be moving first, but it's going to be using the Ivy Cudgel to try to stay alive in this turn. Looks like the attack is going to go into that Indeedee. Zachary calling out that perfectly. Now going to be reducing the Surging Strikes, or we're going to be reducing the Urshifu's HP stat by so much. It's already gone down to about 75% of its HP has already been gone.
What great early turns for Zachary here, really playing that so nicely. Already got a KO on the Fluttermane and already got some really good damage onto this Urshifu. Of course, the Indeedee and the Ogerpon are also at low HP, but they have done a really well job already at doing what their respective roles are. You know, the Ogerpon with the Follow Me managed to still stay on the field, and the Indeedee just having the Rocky Helmet and taking those Surging Strikes does so much damage back to this Urshifu. So Paul really has to be careful here what he does with the Urshifu next, because the Indeedee, of course, potentially could also go for a Follow Me, but it is going to switch out instead here into the Urshifu, coming back in here with the Stella type already up. The Urshifu on Paul's side is going to go for a Detect this turn. Maybe trying to get rid of a Pokemon here is going to be the Ivy Cudgel into the opposing Ogerpon, going to take that out. But I think if you're Zachary, you're still quite happy with this position. The terrain wars are in session here right now as well. You know, the Rillaboom in the back for Paul could come in here to reset the Psychic terrain once more. But Indeedee for Zachary also in the back could reset that terrain right back out. Although, okay, Zachary deciding to bring the Indeedee in here right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what Zach is trying to go for. You bring in the Indeedee again, which if you decide to go for the Follow Me, the Ogerpon on Paul's side is probably going to be moving before Paul's Urshifu, so you get to, you know, let the Urshifu able to stay up instead of having to go for a Surging Strikes to be able to KO, and then your Surging Strikes could attack into Zach's Urshifu. It's going to be that exactly. Ivy Cudgel going to go take out the Indeedee. It's going to leave Zachary with only 2 Pokemon remaining in the back as the turn's still going to play out. Looks like close combat boosted by the Stellar Terra is going to go into this Ogerpon, and it's going to do a one-hit KO. That is going to be another Pokemon down on Paul's side of the field, and he's going to have to bring in that opposing Rillaboom in the back. It's going to be 2 Pokemon apiece, as Paul's last Pokemon to move is going to be the Urshifu on that side. It's going to go for that close combat, bringing Urshifu on Zach's side down to its Focus Sash.
The power of Terra Stella really being showcased here in this match. Both close combats doing so much damage as the Focus Sash now is activated for Zachary's side. Rillaboom gonna come back in here to reset that grassy terrain as Iron Crown now comes in. Does not like the fact that its Psychic terrain was just disappeared beneath its feet, but is going to get that booster energy for the special attack set up. So the Expanding Force is not an option here as a double target move, but of course still a move that you could go for to try and take out the Urshifu. But a Fake Out is first going to come out here from the Rillaboom, as it is going to flinch that Iron Crown. Aqua Jet going to finish off the Urshifu on Zachary's side. So it is very close. Of course, Paul does have the Pokemon advantage here, but Iron Crown is a very tacky Pokemon, and being a Steel type, you know, takes grass moves from the Rillaboom really, really well. But the Rillaboom also does have access to high horsepower, so that is a super effective move it can go for. And Paul also still has the Terra open, so can go for something like a Terra Water to boost the power of his Water type Surging Strikes, and that is exactly what he is going to go for here. Just trying to take out that Iron Crown before it can do too much damage to his Pokemon. And we're going to have to see who goes first here. It is going to be that Urshifu attacking first. How much damage is the Surging Strikes going to do? Is going to, with 3 hits, going to be able to do a very nice amount of damage, about 75% there into this Iron Crown. So as long as the high horsepower connects, this should be game for Paul as the expanding force comes out to take out this Urshifu. And as long as this high horsepower does not miss, that is going to be game 1 going to Paul here in the finals of EUIC 2026. And the high horsepower does connect. So that is game 1 down for Paul.
Yeah, great gameplay from Paul, recognizing that, even if you did lose that Fluttermane early on, you did force the terrestrialization from Zach in order to KO. It had to use the terrestrialization on the Terrastellar in order to use Surging Strikes to pick up the KO on the Fluttermane, and just was able to pivot through multiple different game situations, resetting the terrain at the last time it mattered to get that grassy terrain up and active. So Iron Crown could not utilize the psychic terrain any longer. Man, he also had speed control with the Urshifu as well. The Urshifu on Paul's side of the field has been really useful. It's just kept getting those guaranteed hits on those Surging Strikes, the critical hits, bypassing those protects, just trying to damage as much as possible. So Paul was able to play that game 1 exceptionally.
Yeah, really got the important KOs also on that Indeedee there. And the Ogerpon, although it did go down to that close combat there, it did what it had to do to help the Rillaboom and the Urshifu then win that end game. So very, very nicely played there for Paul to, really time things correctly for him. And so in terms of adjustments now for game 2, Zachary might have to watch out for that late game, but like in the early turns already, just think ahead about how can I prevent this position from getting me into a weird spot in the late game where Paul can just kind of clean up the battlefield. We are going to be going into game 2, and it is just going to be the Iron Crown Indeedee lead here versus the Raging Bolt and Incineroar. So the Iron Crown mode, so to say, coming out here in the lead for Zachary. But of course, the expanding force is not going to be doing anything to a dark type like the Incineroar.
Yeah, now we have the psychic terrain down, so the Iron Crown could start going for those expanding forces into that Raging Bolt. Can't obviously go into that Incineroar as it is a dark type. You could potentially try to see a setup here from the Iron Crown, going to go into that Calm Mind, just try to boost up its special defense stats in the face of a Raging Bolt. Looks like Indeedee going to be switching into the back, trying to preserve its HP stat, as well as trying to win the terrain war. Going to go into that Landorus, trying to give it a better matchup into both the ground weak Pokemon in the Raging Bolt and the Incineroar, as we're going to see another switch in the turn. Paul Chua going to be switching out that Raging Bolt, going to be bringing in, I believe it's going to be the Rillaboom, so providing another option to go for Fake Out on the next turn, and also did not get intimidated as well from the Landers as it just switched in before. Fake Out going to be used into this Iron Crown. Iron Crown not going to be able to move on the turn, so pretty null turn other than switching for both players here.
Yeah, the Landorus switch, I really like the approach that Zachary is going for here, although the Landorus switch maybe came in a bit too early, since an Intimidate on this Rillaboom would have been so nice, but going for like a Calm Mind setup with the Landorus being able to provide support with that Intimidate is an approach that I really, really like here for Zachary, if that is what he's going for. A U-turn now from the Landorus is going to go into that Raging Bolt, actually doing a decent amount of damage thanks to that Choice Band on that Landorus, is going to give Zachary an opportunity to switch out into his Urshifu. So revealing all 4 Pokemon here as the Iron Crown goes for the first Calm Mind, and having already gotten that booster energy boost means that you will be taking less damage from knockoff, but the Incineroar instead just going for a parting shot to not let this Iron Crown get too many special attack boosts up. But even so, I still really like the approach of, getting those special defense boosts, as you said, in the face of this Raging Bolt. And now the Ogerpon is going to come in here, is going to be threatening this Iron Crown, but Landorus is in the back, can fire off Intimidates against these physical attackers.
So we know from game number 1, a Terrastalized Sterataler Urshifu close combat was able to pick up a KO into this Ogerpon. You could end up trying to go for that, but you do have to be careful that the Raging Bolt on Paul's side does have access to that Thunderclap attack, and the Ogerpon on Paul's side as well might just be faster and get hit off beforehand. You do have to contend that the Indeedee is still in the back, and you do not want to let it switch in and start attacking into it. Both players lock their moves in. Iron Crown just trying to play defensive for another turn, trying to go for that protect, not trying to eat an Ivy Cudgel. It's going to be a Grassy Glide into the Urshifu. Going to be taking significant damage, but not enough for a KO. Obviously, Thunderclap going to be not used into the Urshifu. It is also going to be attacking into, I believe that oh, actually no, it was just a fail. We actually don't know where the target was because the Urshifu decided to go for that taunt. We actually don't know if it went into the protect or the taunt user. So now the Raging Bolt cannot set up these Calm Minds later in this match. It's going to be forced to attack.
The taunt there coming out from the Urshifu, a very neat tech move to have in a situation like this, since that means you cannot just go down to a Grassy Glide plus Thunderclap and also prevents the Raging Bolt from setting up any Calm Minds, as you just mentioned. So a very, very nice turn there for Zachary to not let Paul get too much out of that turn. Though, you know, still a very even playing field here for both of these players. And I still really, really like the approach Zachary is going for, but I also really like how Paul is trying to counter it and not let him get away with it. The Indeedee is now going to come in here for Zachary to reset up this Psychic Terrain and is going to turn the Expanding Force into a double target move, and we're going to see a Terastallization come out here. Is going to be onto that Ogerpon, so going to get that attack boost to its stats, and that could be a very, very powerful and crucial Ivy Cudgel coming out this turn. If Zachary did not go for a Terra himself, this Iron Crown is going to be weak to any Ivy Cudgels, but is going to go for that Terra Water, or it is a Terra Dragon actually on this Iron Crown. So not going to be weak to any electric type moves, but it's going to become weak to any Dragon Pulses. So a double up could really, really hurt this Iron Crown right now. Ivy Cudgel from the Ogerpon coming out into that slot. About half damage there. What did the Raging Bolt go for? Actually, the Expanding Force coming out first here. How much is this going to do? Not going to be enough to knock out either Pokemon. And the Dragon Pulse coming out here into this Iron Crown that just went for the Terra Dragon and is going to knock it out. And that is a huge knockout here for Paul, taking him one step closer to getting that second EUIC champion title.
Yeah, I think Zach had to recognize that you do not want to let any of your Pokemon in the back just take a double up, recognizing that you will just have to sacrifice your Iron Crown to just get some damage onto this board. The Landorus is going to have to be the next Pokemon up to do as much damage as possible. It is that Choice Band variant. It will be able to have that increased physical type damage attack, but also has to contend with the fact that there is an Incineroar in the back. It may not be faster than this Heartflame Ogerpon as well, so it will just end up taking a little bit more damage. This Landorus does have access to Rock Slide, and you could go for something like a Helping Hand Rock Slide to potentially attack into both the Raging Bolt and the Ogerpon to just deal as much damage as possible. This Indeedee still is at full health, so it could just provide that additional support to make sure that any Pokemon that's going to attack into the Landorus is going to get redirected here.
The Landorus is a really nice Pokemon for Zachary to have brought here in this game, and it's still going to be able to do a lot of work, even with the Iron Crown having gone down. The Urshifu at low HP, but is going to be coming in here now to support that Landorus a little bit, and I wonder if there will be a Rock Slide coming out here, since it is hitting everything on Paul's team quite nicely right now. Incineroar now coming in here, firing off that Intimidate, but the Landorus is Choice Banded, and the Ivy Cudgel here is going to come out first into that switching in. Urshifu is going to be enough to take it out, but this Landorus now has the opportunity to go for a move. I wonder if it's going to be a U-turn to maybe reset that attack drop, or if it's just going to be a straight up Rock Slide. It's going to be just a straight up Rock Slide. That Ogerpon is at very low HP, so will be enough to knock it out. But now Zachary only has 2 Pokemon remaining, and one of that is an Indeedee, which is not really a great damage dealer, but will be able to provide some support. But this Rillaboom here that's going to come in here now is going to be still at full HP. The terrain advantage here should be in Zachary's favor though, since the Grassy Surge is first going to activate from this Rillaboom, and now the Psychic Surge is going to bring that Psychic Terrain right back up. So no Fake Out option for Paul here, and the Grass types are not going to get a boost.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough situation for Zach to come back from. He only has 2 Pokemon left. And remember that the Fake Out can be used into Flying type Pokemon because they are not touching the Psychic Terrain. The Indeedee is going to have to do some offensive output here with the Dazzling Gleam, knowing that the Landorus cannot attack during the turn. Knockoff is going to be used into the Indeedee, getting rid of that Rocky Helmet while taking some additional chip damage, but Paul is also going to activate that Citrus Berry, healing up some of the damage that it had just taken. This Landorus is in a very precarious situation. The Incineroar could just end up going for Parting Shot constantly, bring back in to the field, drop the Intimidate, since Zachary cannot switch out again and get rid of those attack drops. Paul Chua is playing this perfectly to win this upcoming event.
Andrew, is it time to just go for some Rock Slide flinches and just hope and pray if you're Zachary here? There's not a infinite amount of HP here on Paul Chua's side. His Pokemon have already taken some damage, and there's also not a lot of Protect on his field. The Rock Slide doing a good amount of damage to both of these Pokemon, but the Incineroar does get the Parting Shot out, so we'll be able to bring back the Rillaboom here, which will it will reset the grassy terrain, meaning that you will get some recovery for all of your Pokemon. You'll be able to fire off another Intimidate later, and of course, you also have another Fake Out option on your side. And the Landorus being Choice Band, it cannot go for anything other than Rock Slide for the remainder of this game, and also cannot protect itself from said Fake Out. And the Indeedee by itself, you know, the Helping Hand support is kind of null and void if your Landorus takes a Fake Out. And the Psychic also is not going to be able to really knock out this Raging Bolt or anything of that sort.
Yep, the Fake Out's going to be used into that Landorus just to deny it from attacking the turn. Looks like the Dazzling Gleam going to be used into the Raging Bolt and the Rillaboom, but just barely not enough. The Indeedee is going to be going down to that Dragon Pulse attack. Now it's going to be a 3 versus 1 against Zach's own Landorus. You can pretty much just call this game over. Maybe you could just bring in the Incineroar, drop another Intimidate. You have Fake Out pressure onto that Landorus once again. The Raging Bolt can just keep going for these Protects to try to heal itself up. It didn't take that much damage from those Rock Slides earlier on, as the Rillaboom just going to go for that Grassy Glide, just trying to get the guaranteed damage onto the Landorus. It's doing pretty high damage. Rock Slide going to try to connect into this Rillaboom, but it's all for naught. I believe the Rillaboom on the next turn could just go for a Grassy Glide again and win this game.
Paul is just one turn away from claiming the title one more time, and how deserving it is indeed, because that was really, really well played, really well maneuvered through the Landorus and the Iron Crown. That is it. That is game. Paul Chua is your 2026 EUIC International Champion. Congratulations to him. How deserving, just so well played there. And it really wasn't over until that endgame where only the Landorus was left. That was a really tough situation to maneuver through. Also the Iron Crown as well, but in the right turns, just made the right calls and just managed to pull it off.
Yeah, I believe Paul had prepped for that matchup so well. He knew how strong the Iron Crown was, and especially the Landorus in these Bolt Balance matchups. I bet both players were thinking about how well they can play and strategize into each other's teams. Paul was just playing that matchup so exceptionally, bringing the Flare Main in game number 1. Ultimately did not matter in that match. And then bringing Raging Bolt later on, just getting some crucial damage in. Paul, congratulations for being your 2026 European International Championships.
My God, what a weekend this was, and it's only been like years since Paul already did win EUIC once, and last year, of course, it was Wolfie Glick who won, and now Paul is back to reclaim that title. And my God, 2 EUIC titles under your name just goes to show how amazing of a player he is, and he really did showcase that in this match here. I believe we will get to hear from Paul himself in just a moment here, talking to Costa. And that finals really got me so hyped, because that was just from beginning to end so nicely played. Also from Zachary, I have to give him props where, you know, it is deserved.
Yeah, and let's listen in on Costa doing the champions interview with Paul Chua.
The biggest VGC tournament of all time. And who's on top of it? Just one trainer. And it's not a one-time, it's a two-time EUIC champion, Paul Chua! Paul, buddy, I don't know how you keep on doing it, but you've done it again. How are you feeling?
I can't believe it. Like, I know, like, in the past I've won like a bunch of regional stuff, but like, as of recently, I've been getting second place a lot every time I reach finals. So like, I never thought I'd be able to win again, but I'm really happy to get first place.
I mean, as you should be, you have got so many accolades, and you've just gone ahead and proven that you are the king of balance that we've seen and needed this format. So, I mean, it was a tough match, not to lie at all, but you did seem to have a very good handle in terms of how to sort out that Iron Crown and play around with the terrain. So, what kind of prep were you undergoing yesterday going into today?
So yesterday, most of my prep was looking at how Zach played the other balance teams. And he did like something like Landorus, Urshifu, Iron Crown, and Didi. So that was most of my prep for the first game. Was just trying to figure out like a combination that helps against that. So that's why I went with like Flutter Mane and Urshifu. I felt like Urshifu was like a nice middle ground in case he went like with a Tornado switch up. Yeah. But I also felt like that wasn't really like the greatest mode. I feel like what most of the people were doing on stream was good with like the Raging Bolt like setup. I did have like a few different things. So, like I had Ogre Pawn, for example. Some of them didn't. And also like my Raging Bolt was leftovers, so I'd be able to heal more HP than compared to them. So I think that was like another thing that I decided to plan around.
Yeah, and it was a great way to go about it, especially because you brought that Flutter Mane and Ogre that exerted so much pressure onto Zachary's side. But huge accomplishment, Paul. Honestly, I think myself and everyone in the audience, everyone at home, we're just so happy to see such an accomplished trainer. Just go ahead and absolutely smash it. So with that being said, we're going to let you go ahead, get some rest, as we are going to get things ready for the trophy award ceremony. But before that, do you have any final shout outs you would like to give to anybody in the audience or at home?
Well, there's a lot of shout outs to give that I'm probably going to forget people, so I'll just keep it generic. Thanks to all my family for supporting me, and they're probably watching at home. My friends, both who are here and at home, supporting me throughout this. I wouldn't have been here without you and all your advice to help me, for finals and the rest of the event.
There it is. There it is. Give it up for your EUIC 2026 Masters Division International Champion, Paul Chua. We'll be right back.
Shout out Costa for the job he's done today. And again, congratulations to all of our VG international championships throughout the juniors, seniors, and masters divisions. They all did a great job in their final matches, and hopefully they'll continue to win some more events in the future.
I think this has like been some of the best finals we've ever had, like in the history of Pokemon. Like from juniors to seniors to masters, these were just all some really high level, incredible matches that just goes to show that all of these players deserve to be in finals. And congratulations to all of the winners one more time. That was, yeah, I mean, I've already said it before now, but really some of the best Pokemon I've seen, I think, in the history of VGC.
Yep, absolutely. And we obviously saw 3 days of competition from Friday's Swiss matches to day 2 all the way through Top Cut. And obviously with today, we saw some incredible matches to see. And we are going to be starting to look at the bracket once again. Looks like we are looking at the juniors division finalist. Hideo Uezu saw him win 2-0 over Zachary Thomas in a Bolt Balance Mirror-esque match.
Yeah, that was the first mirror match of today, and I believe not 100% quite the same, but very, very similar. There was the difference of the Whimsicott with the Tailwind and the Trick Room on one side that we saw, but the very well played by both players there, and congratulations to Hideo for the title there as the junior champion. And now thinking back to that match, I like, it's still in my mind just how well already these very young players are playing, and the seniors division better watch out for when they age up. And also, the masters division gotta watch out for those seniors as well, because they are a threat to be dealt with.
Yeah, and one of my favorite matches of this entire weekend was Charlie Kim versus Leland Smith, the friends from the United States, playing an almost exact mirror match of Pokemon. It was back and forth with different types of offensive outputs. You had a Tornadus, Landorus, Raging Bolt, and Urshifu core able to just keep taking one-hit KOs or even just living on 1 HP. We did see in game number 2. there was a situation where you had to go for the thunderclap. The lander Tornadus ended up surviving the turn and able to get the connection on the Bleak Wind. Ultimately, did not matter in the outcome. Charlie Kim was able to win. We see the two players. You can see those teams. Very unique play styles for both players. Shout out to both of them for becoming your finalist and champion of the EUIC event.
Yeah, also one of my favorite matches that I saw this weekend that went by so quickly. The amount of mind games there and also speed ties and all that happened in that match, but still the impact of both players and their decision making, really fascinating to see. You know, these mirror matches, they can sometimes be a little bit, or not just tricky to play, but you know, there's always this question of how exciting they might be. But that mirror match in particular, one of the most exciting matches of the weekend. And then of course, Paul Chua here one more time. Congratulations to him for being our Masters Division finalist and winner, of course. And that match itself also was just such a masterclass in high-level Pokemon. That is a game that I could watch over and over again and really learn something from as a player.
Yeah, and you listened during the interview with Costa on just how Paul approached the the matchup. He had about a full day's work of just trying to figure out what Zach's tendencies were against other bolt balance matchups. Sometimes when you're playing a team where you know you have a good bolt balance matchup in Zachary Weed, you also have the ability for Paul Chua to say, I have the stream information from the matches you had played before. I can get an insight on what your tendencies are, see how you like to lead Pokemon, see what kind of targeting you like to go for. Do you like to play defensively? Do you like to play aggressively with your Urshifu or your Landorus or your Indeedee or your Iron Crown? So congratulations for Paul to recognize that. We're going to see all of our division winners here once again. They're all going to stamp themselves into the World Championships in San Francisco later this year, and I believe we're going to see some great matches out of them later on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The world champions this year, they're going to be stacked like never before, I think. So the competition just gets more and more fierce every single year. And also with the, of course, more and more juniors and seniors aging up into, you know, the respective divisions, it's just becoming even more fierce of a competition. Pokemon is just growing every single year, and my god, I can't wait to see some amazing world matches as well, but they have very tough competition in terms of like exciting matches and just high level play, because this especially here, the Masters finals with Paul Chua and Zachary Weed, that is some of the most high-level Pokemon I have ever seen.
Yeah, and we also have to consider once again that this European International Championships was the highest attended VG event of all time, regardless if it was a Worlds event, an international event, or a regional event. Looks like we're going to go into our awards ceremony, so let's listen into Costa once more.
Have battled their best with their Pokemon partners all weekend, and now it's almost time for us to close out the show. But before we do, we need everyone all over here to raise the roof as we celebrate our Pokemon Video Game Championship finalists. So, first up, our Video Game Junior finalist, Zachary Thomas! And a round of applause and congratulations to our Video Game Junior champion, Hideo Uetsu! On to the senior division. Go absolutely bananas for our Video Game Senior finalist, Leland Smith! And give it up for our Video Game Senior champion, Charlie Kim! Now, time for the Masters division. Make them hear you across the globe as it's your Video Game Masters finalist, Zachary Wheat! And a huge round of applause for the Video Game Masters champion, Paul Chua! Let's get those trophies in the air and let's hear it one more time for all of our video game finalists! Trainers, thank you for showing us all how it's done this weekend. Please, you can go ahead and head back down from the stage. Go, celebrate, enjoy as we are looking to wrap things up. So thank you very much.
Shona, you got this.
Yeah. Okay. And congratulations one more time to all of our winners. Very well deserved, very, very strong performances, not just today, but all weekend long. And, you know, this has not only been the largest tournament in the history of VGC, but these international championships, that is an entire weekend full of Pokemon. And my God, that's not just a skill of being a really, really good player, but to also endure just so many rounds and, you know, lose barely any of them. That alone is also a skill that is very impressive.
Yeah, and to still think about how we're only at our second international championships at the European circuit. We still have one more international championships at NAIC. As we look at the 2026 NA schedule, we still have Seattle coming up in just a few weeks, as well as the European circuit. We have Seville happening at the end of March, still going to be played in that Regulation F format, as well as Prague, Utrecht, Turin, and again, mentioning it again, New Orleans at the NAIC event in the NA region, and the World Championships happening in San Francisco.
Yeah, still a few events to go until the World Championships, but you know, it's always faster than one might expect until it is time for that competition as well, and it is going to be fierce. Not just the World Championship itself, but also the road to it, qualifying for it. We talked a little bit about how, you know, EUIC is a great event to collect some championship points for the World Championships. But yeah, one more international to go. But those regionals, you know, you definitely want to collect some points there as well, if that is your goal, to make it to San Francisco and compete among all the best players in the world.
And I hope to see most of these players that we saw today at the European International Championships continue to thrive at other regionals in their circuits, also at their local events. You know, supporting your locals is one of the best ways to enhance the experience of your own competitive, you know, integrity, as well as just trying to make sure that other people are joining the scene too. Again, want to see more people at NAIC. Potentially could be the next event to break the all-time VG attendance record.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think these tournaments, they are only getting larger and larger every single year as more and more players are joining the VGC community. And we see some, you know, very veteran players do well, but also often a lot of new players. So I'm also curious to see if any more really tough competition is going to be joining the VGC community in the next few years. It is always so exciting to see, someone like, if I had to give an example, like Michael Kelch, like in his first year of competing in VGC, made it to the finals of the World Championships. So it's not just veteran players who do really well. You know, even as a new player, you can really make it in VGC if you put in the time and the work that it requires, because the preparation work for it is nothing to laugh at for sure. And that is another thing that is just something you need to give props to all of these players that have made it this far this weekend, as well as just, you know, anytime someone wins a regional and international, event. It is so much preparation that goes into it and a lot of work, but it can really, really pay off.
Yeah, as we close this event, if you want to finish off with this closing ceremonies, check out the main stream at Pokemon.com. We're going to be finishing and wrapping up here on the side stream. My name is Andrew. We have Shonali here as well. Shout out to our other casters today and Cedric and Paul. They've been holding down the line on day 1 and day 2, respectively. Shout out to our producers and everyone else at Victory Road for allowing us to do this opportunity. We're going to be seeing you hopefully soon at another event, but for now, we'll catch you guys at the next event.